Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along to the first Off the Ball Roadshow. After 3 long years, we're back on the road. It's the Football Pod, live from Castlebar. Please welcome to the stage your hosts for the evening, Paddy Andrews, James O'Donoghue, and Tommy Rooney.
How are you all? How are you all doing? Hello, Castlebar. How's it going? James O'Donoghue, you're in Mayo, you made it here.
I am indeed.
Paddy Andrews, you were looking for directions earlier on.
Made it. Google Maps, lads.
You made it. It's
open goal.
As Joe said there, it's the first Off the Ball Roadshow in 3 years. It is the 50th episode tonight of the Football Pod. James, you've been along for about half of it.
The better half.
Don't know about that. We'll see. It is the very first Off the Ball Roadshow. Football Pod Roadshow, excuse me. Paddy, there was only one place we were ever going to go. It was going to be Mayo, wasn't it?
I felt that was always going to be the case.
Yeah.
Even without Moran, I thought we were coming here first.
We'll get to Moran in a minute. He let us down, but we'll get to him in a minute. Just want to do a bit of a sense check here. I presume there's a lot of people from Mayo. We'll come to that in a second. Is there anyone from Galway here? Good stuff.
Cock a hoop. They're favourites for the All-Ireland.
They're looking good, aren't they?
Come up the front. Come on up here.
Anyone from Monaghan? Is there? Fair play, lads.
Is that Banty, is it? He's down for the week. Say nothing.
Anyone from Leitrim? Fantastic. Look, the buzz is back in Leitrim football. And Andy Moran. Fair play for that. Is there any Rossies here? Thanks, ma'am. Fair play. I presume there's no one from Meath, is there?
No.
Okay, that's the last mention of Meath for tonight. And Mayo. Have we any Mayo people here? There we go. Fantastic. James, going to come to you in a second. Your old buddy Keith Higgins is our special guest tonight.
He is indeed.
Yeah, he obviously roasted you plenty of times.
He did. He did.
He did.
As the column says, the penalties don't count and the frees don't count.
Penalties count. Penalties are actually double.
Okay.
And if you win them yourself, treble.
Okay.
So I think that's the rule.
You have done that. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Paddy Andrews, shake your pockets there.
Fuck off.
Know
your audience, lads.
You have a pretty good record against Mayo, it's fair to say.
Did, yeah.
Unfortunately. Not everything went your way, though. Let's have a look at this.
Paddy Andrews against David Clark.
One.
And Andrews has it saved, but it comes back to him. Brilliant from Clark. Can they keep it out, Mayo? Yes, they can. Absolutely outstanding, but 2 stunning saves. The second one,
Paddy.
Brilliant reflexes from David Clark.
James, you're a man who scored plenty of penalties. Can you talk us through that for a second?
Clark was off his line.
It's not championship, it's league football. It's
Paddy
Croke
Andrews
Park.
against David.
He thinks he's Ronaldo at this stage, and then... Actually, to be fair to Hindley, he's... Clark. Clark's come off the line a small bit, I'll give you that. But...
Do you know what I'd say when I missed it? I actually realised when I was taking it, I haven't taken a pen home since the late 90s, so it's under pressure. But when it comes back here, I'm thinking, all you have to do is hit the target here. This is in.
Clark
comes, it's like fucking Spider-Man coming across. When you get to the 4th one, I knew I was finishing.
He was the best shot stopper, though, in fairness to Clark.
He was sensational.
Massive though, wasn't he? Like?
But you were going down the middle there, yeah?
He's not that big though, Paddy.
No. I'm trying to go top corner.
Do you know what though? I feel like that may have been karma for what happened the previous October. Sorry to bring this up, Mayo fans. Let's have a look at this. It is one of the key moments in the 2016 final replay. Paddy Andrews. Look at the facial expressions here. Can we cycle through a few of these photos?
You can hear the scream.
He's calling for it.
Morris!
Give us that. Any more? Look at that. Now, this is more of a VAR angle. Is there actually contact there?
No.
Let's have a look.
I think that was my only touch that day.
Yeah, I don't know, Paddy. You made a meal of that. But sure, that's it.
Neymar-esque.
You never took a penalty again for Dublin?
No. I took 4 in one go. That was enough.
James, it's fair to say that the peak of your footballing career was 2014.
It was, to be fair, it was.
You only retired?
One and out.
You only retired this year?
I know, but look, don't mention the 3 years in between. Or the
Well,
15, 18 was fairly quiet.
Lucky for you.
But actually, 17 was a low point because we played Mayo in a replay in the semi-final, and I was dropped. That was definitely like a low point. 17.
Oh, sorry. Moran played
when Aidan Shea was full-back and
Donaghy.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
And we weren't great in the first game. And then they dropped me for a second game. Oh, I was sickened. And it was a beautiful day as well for the replay.
Who was the coach?
Yeah,
Bitsy?
Yeah.
I
haven't talked to him.
He was bombed out after, wasn't he? You won the long game.
No, he was there another year, but that was a disappointing one. Yeah. So I actually don't have much of a history with Mayo. I'd say I came on 11 when Gooch got that unbelievable goal. Do you remember he did the dummy hop and outside the left in the top corner in Croke Park was unbelievable. Obviously we had 14 and then 17 I was dropped for that game.
Okay.
So it's Paddy with the history with Mayo.
Like, it's the big game now in 14, the replay that we're going to get stuck into with Keith Higgins a little later, because I don't know if you've all watched it back. I put the link up on Twitter. It is one of the most epic duels. It's absolutely ridiculous. Higgins roasts you. Like, he was obviously one of the finest defenders of a generation, but I have to be fair to you. You kept going. And as you always say, James, you only need one moment.
You only need one ball.
Now,
you had about 30 that day.
Well, I lost 28 of them. You only need one ball to go your way.
Thing is, though, there shouldn't have been a replay that day. James O'Donoghue missed a sitter the first day. After pulling Kerry back, he misses a sitter in the last minute.
I did.
Everything else is up now. Surely a free there. Surely a free is right as James O'Donoghue gathers it. Right man, right place from Kerry. He's going to pull the trigger. He's going to score. No, he's not. He's going off the post and away.
You're wearing gloves as well.
It's pissing rain. It's pissing rain.
You could have fisted that over.
Someone pulled their hamstring just there.
It is. That's Higgins.
No, someone pulled their hamstring wearing 24-5.
Yeah. So, Paddy, a big thing for us in the football pod, and it's always been brilliant throughout, is that we have two of the finest forwards from a decade of football. We had it with yourself and Andy. We have it now with yourself and James. So we can analyse shooting quite well. I can't ask you any questions when it comes to defending, but shooting-wise, was that a bad miss?
Catastrophic. It's an open goal. You're in the D on your left foot.
I know.
How would you miss that?
I know. It was a sitter. But like that was to win it as well, because like 2 minutes before we were down 4 points. Maybe 5 minutes before down 4 points. And we got back and the kick out went long, we broke it. And everyone is knackered. You can see everyone is just hanging on by a thread. Who is that falls and pulls a hamstring at the same time?
Can we slow it down here now, though? Because there's one moment I want to pick out.
Hold
on here, Paddy. Hold on now. See the man at the post there? Can everyone see that at the post? Hands out.
On the 45.
On the 45, by the left-hand post, not the right-hand post. Let's roll it and watch him run towards James O'Donoghue. Because we picked this up the other day.
Oh, sorry, no.
He runs for James when he misses it. Now, we have a couple of photos here of what was actually said. Declan O'Sullivan. Now, I have a feeling...
If he kicked the ball, the leg would have went further with those bandages.
He'd have had to fist it over from where he was because he couldn't swing a leg at the time.
He was about 60 yards behind you.
Yeah, no. He wanted...
was he saying give it to the shooter?
It's like this. He did. He wanted to outside the right it. But no, this is where it is for me. If you miss, everyone can say it was the wrong decision. Right, so... I think that it was the right decision to shoot it, but obviously I missed it. So I knew that I was going to be in for a bit of trouble after it, regardless. And if anyone was going to give it to you, it was going to be Declan.
Was he badly?
Was he what?
Brogan was the worst with us.
Was he?
Brogan to be off the pitch, and he's still calling for the ball.
Yeah.
I was on. We were taking off about 15 minutes ago. He was like, he'd be like that. He'd be like, he was 20 yards behind you, and he can't kick the ball.
But you can see I'm devastated here. And he is only rubbing it in. He's not making me feel any better here.
Do you remember what he said?
He's like Downey Vaughan there or something, giving you lip play.
He used to say, in fairness, Declan was like an unbelievable leader. Like such an unbelievable teammate. But if you did something wrong in his eyes, it was the end of the world. Like, it was near the end of your relationship. So he's just shouting, James! James! I don't think he's even saying, you should have passed it to me. He's just shouting my name. But I know what he means.
Okay.
He thinks I should have passed it to him.
And I'm sure it was all fine with you afterwards.
With Declan, it would take... I'd have to mend the relationship. We probably had a couple of those. Okay. But that particular one, it's actually funny you say that because that didn't get any better for a while because I'd say that was on the Sunday.
Yeah.
And the replay was on
Saturday. In Limerick, obviously. Anyone in Limerick that day? Is Mayo make here?
I've seen him getting carted out there outside.
He's been thrown out already.
So we're at the replay then the following week. Are you chatting?
So we trained once on the Wednesday.
Okay.
And everyone on the panel knew it was like James and Declan are after having a bit of a thing here. Like it was so fucking awkward. Like so, I was just trying to mind myself. I knew at the time that I missed it, so it was my issue, my fault. But Declan just hated me until it was going to be made better. So we played on the following Saturday, and in the dressing room, I'd always be kind of the last one to get ready. I was probably a complete pain in the hole, really.
Not surprised. Wasn't he very relaxed?
You arrived here about 4 minutes ago.
So I was walking around getting ankle strapping, maybe having a chat with fellas, and I decided this was in the dressing room in Limerick. I'd better get togged off now. Everyone else was in full kit. So I said, I'll get ready now. All I had to do was literally put on the shorts, put on the jersey, put on the boots, and I'm ready to go.
Right.
I didn't kind of mess around. So I went over to the bag. Everyone is saying, come on now, lads, replay. I was like, yeah, come on, lads. I turned to the bag, and I opened up the bag, and no boots inside the bag. And I was like, oh, Jesus, no, not today of all days. Please, not today, especially after costing us the game last week.
Yeah.
Like, it's only a replay because I missed that.
And would you not have a spare pair of boots, no?
Oh, there's some fellas would be bringing boots, spare laces, spare studs, spare boots, spare laces for the spare boots, spare studs. I was basic.
Okay.
Like boots in the bag.
Backpack, like.
Yeah, boots in the bag.
Make Macaulay's job, yeah.
So I was looking into the bag, and I was like, there's definitely no boots inside this bag. This bag was nearly empty, I was like turning it upside down, seeing it's underneath. And I was like, oh, God, please, look away, back in, no boots. I was like,
Where were they?
I'm going to have to, I left them in the car in Killarney. So I was going to have to go around the dressing room 5 minutes before we went out for the warm-up in All-Ireland semi-final replay. Do you have a pair of boots? Spare boots? Do you have a pair of boots? Do you have a pair of boots? And so I was like, oh, God, this is fucking terrible. And next thing, all I hear over my shoulder is, what's wrong? I was like, please don't be Declan. Please don't be Declan. Declan, there's yourself there. It is. And I was like, oh, God. He said, what's wrong? I said, I'm after forgetting the boots. And he took off his boots. And he gave me his boots. In fairness, like, it was an unbelievable act because he had to put on, like, probably boots he's never worn, or, you know, you'd be fairly superstitious about a pair of football boots. So
fair play to you.
He gave me the ones off his feet.
That's unreal.
Because I was starting and he was on the bench. And he said, off you go. And, like, he didn't mention how much of a fucking idiot I was or anything, you know, because I felt terrible. Like if Fitzmaurice had known that I'd forgotten the boots, he wouldn't have let me onto the field. Like, he'd have been, do you know what? I'll give you till half time to find them. And Barry John, you're starting. Like, that would have been the case. Like, and it would have been understandable. Yeah. So I was like, oh, thank you so much. And we were fine then after that.
And were you rattled by that? Because you obviously go on to score 2 penalties,
honestly,
4
I
frees.
was so relieved that it gave me a boost of about 50%.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I dodged an absolute bullet.
Some story.
Yeah.
Paddy, you never forgot anything like that, did you?
No, I was always prepared now, yeah.
But you'd have your boots prepared for you.
AIG used to pay for all our boots. This is going to be a long night, isn't it? Like?
Yeah. Would you have the gear set out for you in the dressing room in Croke Park?
Oh, we've lads to put the gear on us. It's great.
I never know.
Put your hands
joking.
Up. Throw it on there. So wasn't as bad as you thought, lads.
We have a great show ahead. We are going to get our special guest out tonight, Cora O'Donovan. I'm sorry, Keith Higgins, in a short while. Sorry about that. On that,
it's Emma McCarran.
You've never been caught out in a catfishing scandal, have you?
No.
Really?
He was the catfisher.
James?
You have.
I wasn't.
Nah, come on.
It's the lies that hurt the most.
I checked the messages for Cora, whatever it was. No, I'm a joke. No, never.
Okay.
I was involved in one small incident,
right,
which is social media based. It's not girl related or anything, but
what?
It's not
I don't
woman
know this.
related.
Are you sure we can tell this?
You tell them about the story that I'm talking about.
You go for it. Okay. I'll let you off it. Go on.
So I was new to the panel, right? I must have been 2011, 2012. So I was unknown, basically, and I was sub in 11, came on a couple of games, just finding my feet in 12, and we lost. So kind of the new fellas were getting a bit of heat.
This is Donegal.
We lost to Donegal. The year Donegal won the All-Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
So they beat us in the quarter-final. I think they beat Mayo in the final.
All right, okay. Keep going. Sorry, I interrupted.
So that was fine. We were getting a bit of heat. But I had this friend that I was hanging around with, still a good friend of mine. And we were hanging around at the time. And every so often, he'd ask me the most random questions. Like, he'd ask me, James, how do you spell your mother's maiden name? And I was like, whatever. I'd tell him. I'd say, it's Linhan, so I'd spell Linhan. Then a week later, he'd ask me, that dog you had, was that your first pet? What was that dog's name again? I'd tell him it was Rex or whatever. That was
Rex.
not the hardest one.
Rex or
And then he'd go, the street you're living on, have you always lived there, or do you have a different first street that you lived on? So I was like, his name was Dennis Sheehan. I said, Dennis, will you fuck off and stop asking me stupid questions? But at that stage, I'd given him like 7 or 8 answers to these very personal questions. Right. But we had an element of trust. But at the same time, we had a relationship where you could fuck each other over. Right. And you'd expect the same back. So we lost to Donegal, and I was working in the bar at the time, my grandfather's bar, Linhan's in Killarney. So I was in bed one of the days after we lost to Donegal. And next thing, my uncle comes barging in the door, going, James, get up, get up. What are you after doing online? Were you out last night? I said, no, I was working last night. Get up and check. He didn't even know what Facebook was at the time, right? But it was after getting Facebook hacked.
Okay.
So we lost to Donegal. I was getting a bit of heat, no problem. But my Facebook status read, Jesus Paddy was right. Kerry supporters are fucking animals.
Yes.
I swear to God.
How long is that up for?
It was up for, I'd say, a day, maybe. So I'd gone to work. I don't even know what phone I had in 2012. Like, I had probably a shitty phone.
You weren't getting
BlackBerry or something.
You weren't getting sponsored stuff by that.
No, God, no. So it was up there for like a night and maybe a day. So I went to log on. My Facebook password had changed.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, how am I going to log in here? So eventually I got around to it, check the comments. Like, all the comments were like, you're on the panel a wet week and you think you're the man already. So I was like, oh my God, I am so fucked here. So one of the county board members actually rang me and goes, James, you want to report this to the guards? So I was like, I didn't know who it was, I didn't know what had happened. As far as I was concerned, it was completely random. Someone just got my password. And there wasn't many instances of that at the time. Do you know, like now, if someone left their Facebook on, you'd hammer them on it. But at the time, it was kind of new, like, so people 100% thought it was me, like. So I went to the guards, reported it. And about 2 years later, I'd say, we were sitting in after a club game. He was on the club team as well, Dennis. We were chatting away, and I say, there's about 20 of us in the room, all close friends. And they knew how much of a hard time I got over that. And the room was quiet, and next thing, Dennis goes, do you remember that Facebook hacking you got there 2 years ago? That was me. And everyone was like, oh, as if like it's going to kick off here. And then the whole room just burst out laughing. Like, he played the serious long game. He must have asked me questions for 8 weeks to get the Facebook password and absolutely do me. But then he knew it caused way too much of a stir to admit straight away. 2 years he lasted on it. Oh, it was quality. It was a good one, but I actually still owe him one back over it, I think.
Yeah, you'll get him back. Paddy, you were famously pranked by your Dublin teammates. I think a lot of people would have heard the story by now. We might be rolling the video a little later in the intermission. You turned up to Jim Gavin's house with a bag of cans.
It's never the same after that again, really. I was always up against it after that one,
yeah.
Barged past his wife, or his daughter, was it?
No, wife, it was Jennifer.
Oh, jeez.
It was more like...
Would you have that culture in the Dublin dressing room? Would you be messing with each other?
There was a bit of that now, yeah. I think it's the same across the board. I'm sure Keith will have the same. Like, but it was more just specifically like Jim, like, we're playing Kerry in 3 weeks. You are not to go out. And I was like, Jim, no problem. I'll train right now. I'm ready to go. 3 weeks. And the second you get on the bus with the lads, bank holiday weekend as well, like this weekend. Yeah. And the lads are like, we're out. And I was like, we're out. 36 hours later, arriving over to the house, like, and I was like, it fucking looks very quiet here now. This ringing Mick. Where are you? He goes, we're all out the back. Just barge through there. Sister's there at the door.
He sent you the address, didn't he?
Yeah. So knock on the door. This woman opens the door, and I'm like, still looks very quiet. Like, where are the lads? With a bag crate of cans. Like, just there was no getting out of this one. There's no party here. I said, no. Talking to Michael there, like, they're out the back. He said, no, there's no party here. I'm like, literally, like, fucking pushing you out the door, like. So he's like, right, fair enough. Back down to the driveway, put the cans on Jim's fucking pillar, like. Ring Mick. Oh, Mick, where are you? And he goes, oh my God, that's my sister. I told you, don't mind her. Just barge her out of the way, like. So after that, like, and not at any second does it cross my head, I'm being had here, like. That's 36 hours of share, you would do that to you. And I, like, definitively march back up. I'm, like, nearly like Arnie kicking the door in, like. And she opens the door again. I was like, the lads are out the back. Like, hold those cans and going out. And she goes, Paddy Andrews. I was like, yeah. She goes, this is Jim's house. And, like, I'm halfway in the corridor. What? She goes, this is Jim Gavin's house. He's upstairs. We're like, yeah. And you know when you just sober up like that? I've never moved as fast in my life before or since. Literally just ran out the door. Oh, no, Jennifer, you're all right. Don't get him. Legged it up. Left the cans there. It was a waste. Got to the bottom of the driveway and rang the lads. And they were all around a place called the Orchard in Rathfarnham. Boozer around the corner. And there was roars. Like the whole boozer was in on it. So I still didn't go home. Got a taxi around to the Orchard and arrived in King's Chair stuff. Yeah.
There you go.
But that was fear to God, that one. Like,
yeah.
How would you go training on the Tuesday after that?
We went training on the Tuesday, and it was like everyone knew, obviously.
Did he know?
Yeah, he was looking down the fucking stairs at me. And we arrived.
He was definitely a full set pajamas man as well.
No, we were playing these fuckers in the semi. We won that one, I think. So we're arriving at the train on the Tuesday, and the lads are giving me, like, you're under pressure here, Wolf. And I was like, fuck, I know. Still have the fear, like. And he called a meeting before training, and I was like, no way. I'm literally going to get drop kicked out of DCU off the panel again before we play you lads. Not a dicky about it. Never said a word. It was like, we're doing this in training tonight. Blah, blah, blah. Trained away. Played all the games after that as well. Like, so it was the first time we actually spoke to me about it, lads. That was 13. I got married there a few months back. Still married.
Congratulations.
Easy, isn't it?
Congratulations.
And he was at the wedding, and one of the lads told that story at the wedding, and the first time, 9 years later, actually had a chat with him about it. Never said a dicky ever since.
There you go.
Jesus, that's good management though, because he could have.
Great management.
Yeah.
It was very grateful for that one.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be talking a lot of football tonight, lads. We have the good stories out of the way. We have a big legend, and I want you to give a proper Mayo welcome for one of your own, Keith Higgins.
Sit down. Thank you, mate. Here's
Keith, come on. Now, can we look at this for a second? Keith Higgins, can you stand up for 1 second there, please?
No.
Because you have not retired. Keith's obviously still hurling for Mayo. You're in unbelievable shape.
Yeah,
not saying anything about the two boys, but you're just...
Looks can be deceiving, Tommy.
Yeah, I was talking to a buddy of yours earlier on. I won't say his name, Andy Moran. And he said, will you tell Keith that he never caught me in the record Mayo appearances? But then he said, and this is actually ridiculous, Keith actually has about 250 appearances in the Mayo jersey when you combine the hurling with the football. And I just think that is absolutely remarkable. So just a round of applause for that, please.
Thank you. Yeah. I was wondering where you were going with that story when you started off with Andy Moran saying he never caught me. I think everyone's caught Andy Moran now. He's not the fastest man in the world, so.
Speed merchant.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, yeah. nerve-wracking coming up now. These two boys either side of me.
Would you
A lot
stop?
of bad memories.
Interrogation.
I think collectively you may have bad memories, but individually you must have good memories. You roasted the two of them at different times.
Oh, Jesus. You've been a bit
Anyone
generous
with the
there now, I
nickname
think.
Zippy, I just stayed away from him. I was slower than Moran.
You stayed on one. You marked him in 15, didn't you? When you had that super game against Mayo, you kicked 5 points.
Thanks, Tommy, yeah.
I don't think we weren't.
I was on you for a while, right, yeah.
A couple of minutes. But we always moved around, and you see particularly in modern football, it's not like 10 years ago it was like man to man. Forwards kind of move around. We would have done a lot with Dublin, that you might have been on for 5 minutes and then you'd be over and Carfrick would be on you or Boiler would be on you as well. So it was rare enough that you'd be set. I know you two lads, that's why it's so nearly famous. The battle you guys had, that you'd be on the same guy for 70 minutes. No one paid that much attention to me. It was great. Like, so I used to try and drift into the spaces. That's what happened when you were slow lads. You had to try and find spaces. So
we might have a look at that battle just to remind people if they haven't seen it in the last little while. Just the duel that Keith Higgins
Two
and
Kerry
James
men up
O'Donoghue had
front.
back in
Here's one of them. James O'Donoghue. Keith Higgins with him.
One.
Good challenge by Higgins. O'Donoghue.
I'm not going to come over with here.
Roll
Roll to the penalties.
He looked impressive in the opening quarter of an hour. Here's James O'Donoghue.
Okay, that's a good point. I like that.
that's it all.
This wasn't in the original.
I needed that.
No, it's not. It's not the original.
Didn't okay that one.
He is the man. For James O'Donoghue.
Marty's loving you anyway.
Oh, hand pass here.
Higgins. They're really going to know each other quite well.
Jesus
Oh, Higgins did well.
This is like juniors.
To be fair, it was turnover central in the game, like in
I
general.
can see that.
Started by me.
One against one.
Now, Donaghy now gave me a call earlier and said, will you get on to him later on about this? The next one coming up. Hold on. You were unlucky, Keith, there with that block.
The worst soccer
No,
statistic
That one.
No, it's not that one either. That's unbelievable.
Was that you that blocked that one as well after right?
Oh, here's
Okay.
the scores.
There you go.
That's Vaughan, was it?
It's over the bar. What was going through your head at half time, James? Because he obviously had you in the first half.
Yeah, no,
Penalty.
Stone wall.
Don't get me started on that.
Respect the ref. Respect the ref.
What are you saying there to the referee, Keith?
Yeah, go to VAR on that one.
Cormac Riley, good Mead man.
Who's in net? Is it Henley in net?
Yeah.
Now, look at this for that.
Ah, surely fall. Yeah.
This is car crash stuff.
In fairness to you, keep going though.
Good tackle.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
there
a
you
black. That's a black.
You didn't
Bare hand.
Yeah.
There you go. Do you know what though?
They all let up. They all let up.
You'd watch that football though. I'd watch that. Oh,
Like, he gave Paddy a flag
That
on
was a
first
leg
dive.
breaker.
Like,
That
we
was
get
a
a
leg
replay
breaker
for that?
by Caffrey. Huh?
You nearly broke your neck there.
no, hold on. Wait for the next one.
So what is it? Your point up?
Oh.
He was an awful man for that. Him and Killian, the two of them. Gee, never tackled O'Shea. Or
What's going on? Is this a bit of sledging, Keith? Can you talk to us about your tactics here? What's going on there?
There's no tactics at that stage. I don't think it was that occasion. It was the drawn game.
Yeah.
I think you had a collision with Aidan as well in the drawn game, I think, and you went down, holding the shoulder.
I broke my chest bone.
You did, yeah. And
I swear
you were down that long.
to
You were
God.
down that long.
I swear to God, I got a fracture on my sternum.
You're only a little fella though.
And were you
You were
playing
down
next
for
day
about
with
7 or 8 minutes anyways, and eventually you got up and everyone was awful concerned about you, and the ref was standing there. And you got up and you go, what's the story there, ref? I don't know who was ref in the first day. He just goes, big man against a small man. He goes, the big man won. And next thing the book just goes, I bench 100 kg. And I'm there in the middle of Lawrence and me just going like, did I actually hear
remember
that?
I was taking the piss there.
Yeah, I knew well you never benched 100 kg. So yeah, that's what was going through in Ireland semi-final anyways, fair play to him.
Yeah, Aidan got a good laugh out of that as well, to play in fairness. So.
Paddy, the big thing that stood out there was it was chaos. Like, it was one-on-one. It was duels. It was matchups.
Yeah.
You watched that game, didn't you? Because you were playing Donegal the next day.
Yeah. That was it, yeah. That was a Saturday and we played Donegal on the Sunday. And
So we had 2 games played before you played.
it's your AIG sort of for us, like.
But that's reckless, I can't.
No, I remember watching it on the Saturday night, and I normally wouldn't have watched a lot of games. I don't know what you lads were like when you're playing. When you're growing up, obviously, it's you're a massive fan of Sunday game, everything like that. But when you get into playing it, particularly at the level we were, it was very, very serious stuff. You spend all your spare time out of work at training and analysis and stuff like that you didn't really watch other games. Like.
Yeah.
We completely would have stayed away, not against the Sunday game, just would not have watched a lot of games because we knew if we were playing you guys for the 3 weeks leading into that game, we'd be all over everything. So the spare time you had, you weren't watching GAA. So that was a rare enough one that we watched that game. And I remember it was like, we were delighted he'd won because we knew we didn't rate you like.
Really?
No, we didn't. We thought just away, and that was early in our battles. Like. But with the 13 final where you lads, geez, you obviously could have beaten us, and you were well suited to us, whereas we thought we'd be all right against you lads. So when
not a hope.
Yeah, but when's the last time you met Dublin Championship? 80s, is it? Spillane was still playing.
90.
But we watched that and he won, and then we were going in thinking we're playing Donegal, and Donegal are brutal at the minute. So it was the only time in our whole thing where we were complacent.
Hold on a second. Did you go into that game thinking Donegal are brutal?
Yeah, lads might say others, but we
that
were.
Was two ratings you got wrong, us and Donegal.
We made up for it for the next 6 years, but no, we were complacent, and I just remember watching that game and thinking that's probably not great preparation to be watching. It was an amazing game, though. It was just an occasion. Like,
I should have asked, is there any dubs here? Oh, there is.
We'll meet you later.
There you go. James, the yapping, the bit of personality, would you let that come out in the pitch?
No.
You're lying.
He's lying to your face.
You're lying. Would you not be mouthing a bit, no?
I don't think so. I'd be too distracted by everything anyway. Do you know, I wasn't. My concentration probably was poor, which actually led into probably a little bit of success against someone like Keith, where I could be turned over, and I'd have forgotten about. By the time the next ball came around, which is like it's such like an important trait that you teach fellas now. But I just had such poor concentration that I didn't even remember the turnover. So I don't think I ever even got. I don't think I ever got like yappy with anyone.
Did you get that sense, marking a fella like James? That
you knew he was kind of a free spirit, all right. You know, you go around fucking talking that to a referee in the middle of a game, you knew. But
what was it like being tasked? He's obviously Footballer of the Year, but he's in really good form coming into that game. You were flying yourself. What's it like being tasked to go man on man on him?
I wasn't actually flying. I wasn't having a great year in 14, actually. Like, but it's funny. I remember the week before the Drone game. We were at training. We were just kind of finishing down training, kind of warming down. James was kind of going around the group, and I just said to him, "I said, what's the plan for next week for the matchups?" He goes, "I don't know yet. Why?"
That's a very good question.
I said, "What's the story with the matchups with the Donoghue?" He goes, "I don't know yet. Why?" I said, "I wouldn't mind a go, like."
Okay.
And that was before the Drone game. Obviously, we went out in the first half of the Drone game. We were kind of marking them, but Tom Caniff was doing a sweep roll that just didn't suit us at all.
And why was that? Were you doubling up, or was it the way that Kerry set up that day?
No, I think we were doubling up, which was kind of unlike us at the time, but just he was in such good form, I suppose. But it didn't suit us, the fact that we gave them an extra man. I think David Moran kicked a few long-range points in that first half, and then obviously with Lee getting sent off, it just meant we'd no other choice but to go flat out for it in the second half. And that probably suits
our hands. Yeah. When he dropped the man back.
Yeah.
Because even when he went down to 14 and he had to go man on man, he turned the tide.
But that suited us because a lot of the time we were played our best was nearly when games were a bit chaotic, like, you know.
Yeah.
And that kind of type of game suited us. So second half suited us that day, and then obviously the game in Limerick was just chaos from start to finish.
We used to always say playing you like, you wanted chaos. We would actually use that phrase where it was like, you went man to man with us, and we played poorly against you because not many teams set up man to man against us in those games, and it was so hands-on, it was so physical. No mouthing really. I don't remember much on our end. I know the other end was probably hectic with our defenders and your forwards, but we were always try and stay in control. If Mayo, if the game breaks up and they get a running game going, we're going to be discomfortable.
Yeah, like it wasn't a conscious thing to make it chaos, but that was the way James wanted to play, was high pressing, high in tempo.
Yeah. But it was conscious for us. It was conscious for us after I'd say 13 were bad, 15, obviously both games, the end of the first game and then the first half of the replay as well. And we were like, we were under pressure, like, because you were just taking us out of our comfort zone. And not many teams would have done that against us. They would have drop sweepers back and give us the ball. That was never going to work against us. And that we always had so much trouble with you guys because it was chaos. And we would have used that phrase, like, just try and stay calm. And the games always were manic.
But you know, the Mayo crowd feed into that as well. Like,
yeah, whenever
you play Mayo, if there's a turnover, like the crowd just goes from the floor up, and you can see everyone individually on the Mayo team getting a boost.
Yeah.
And if they get a score off a turnover, it's like a double whammy. It's like the octaves go up in noise and intensity. Whereas if you look at this year with Galway, they completely killed the game and stopped any turnover. There was a foul. So that was that noise gone. And any score, they kind of went down injured or wasted time there. Whereas with Mayo, like, I think if you give Mayo a run on you, you've no chance. Yeah. Because it's just the emotion, the intensity.
Saturday's going to be the same. Yeah. What do you think Monaghan are going to do on Saturday? Banty, and like they're one of the most experienced teams. I know Horan's been around the block, and a lot of those Mayo lads have been.
Yeah.
But like Monaghan are hard work to play against. Like.
Yeah. The ball will be out of play or it's in play.
Oh. But even you mentioned that, and like without supposed looking ahead too much, but if you look at Mayo last year, like in the Connacht final against Galway, semi-final against Dublin, the first half of both them games,
bad.
Dublin were in control, Galway were in control, and the game was kind of played their tempo. In the second half, then when Mayo had to come out and raise the tempo of it, and turn into a bit of chaos, you know, they turned the two games over. So, I suppose it's
when we look at, just very quickly, because we're not going to get stuck in Derry Donegal, because I think we all sat through enough of that last week. I don't think it was as bad as it was made out, but the one thing that stood out when you compare it to this game, the amount of kicking. Like, the big thing about James and yourself and that, there's so many clips there in that 2-minute video. You got so much ball. There was so much kicking going on back then. And it's not happening at the minute. Do you ever wish that you were born with a northern accent? Couple of sweepers around you?
Just, I'm living with a girl from Donegal, so that's bad enough at the moment, but she's there. So, yeah, look, it's just the way the game has gone. Like, I mean, there's no... Like, you look at them two games and you watch it, 14, 15 men behind the ball. Like, it's just a different game. Tactically, it's different.
I feel like you loved the one-on-one, though. Like, even the way that you went up to Horan and said, I fancy going, James.
I think most cornerbacks like that, or full. I think Philly was probably like that as well. You know, I think
Philly just went forward. He was defending like, so.
But most,
he was all right.
You kind of hate being stuck marking the best person, but in a way, you kind of want to do it because
it's a responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, and like you hate that term, it brings out the best in you, but like you want to actually challenge yourself, I suppose. And it was just, you know, in a way, it's an no-lose situation. You know, he does well. He's footballer of the year. If you do well, you're a great man.
Yeah.
But isn't it? Yeah. Genuinely, like for cornerbacks, it's hard to get limelight or credit. It's always forwards, kicking scores, or whatever it might be. Whereas if you're tasked as a man marker and you take their main guy out,
like Chris McKaig at the minute,
that's like the respect your teammates have for you, because it's not an easy gig. It's so special.
Couldn't think of anything worse.
I did it on the Gooch for about 10 minutes. It was a car crash stuff.
In 09. If anyone doesn't realise, Paddy
Who was in the other corner? Sorry, Tommy. Who was in the other corner?
Defender.
Yeah, and forward. It was...
He had full forward line of Gooch, Tommy Walsh and...
Donny.
Oh, Twin Towers, yeah.
I think we had like Dennis Bastick.
So you had to get...
Dennis Bastick marking Tommy Walsh. Jesus. Brian Cullen marking Donny. Jesus Christ. We lost by 100 points, obviously, so...
So you marked Gooch that day?
Yeah.
Keith, you've marked both Gooch and James.
Ooh. Don't put me on the spot here now.
I just want to say one thing.
That is the most unfair.
We will. Hold on a second.
I sense a soundbite coming. Give the audience what they want, Keith.
You all met Joe earlier on. Joe's going to be going around with the mic a little later. We're looking for questions from the audience. It's been one of the big things we've always done on the football pod. This question comes in from a former teammate of yours, Kieran Donaghy, and he wants to know the difference between Colin Cooper and James O'Donoghue. How you'd mark them. Now, he did give me the answer.
One was the best player of all time. Go on.
He reckoned it was vision, because he's still sour at you for not passing the ball in that 14 replay.
Like, I didn't change the way I marked either player, really. I didn't. But it was just, like, obviously in 2014, like, he was on fire. Like, his pace was probably something the Gooch didn't have. and he was a lot more direct than the Gooch. So you see in them clips there, he got the ball, he was looking to take you on straight away, where the Gooch get the ball, and obviously he's nice at his vision, he'll look up and he'll try and sell you a sidestep, or he'll look for that pass. Do you know, so there were different types of players.
And you wouldn't change your game? Still the same Keith Higgins, bombing forward?
I wouldn't say going forward, but I was too fucking killed out trying to mark them, but I always just used to play in front anyways, like, that was just the way it was. And regardless, look, I got caught plenty of times with the ball in over the top, but that was just the way I played.
You always had the pace. You always had the pace to get back. So if I got it over the top, you'd still get back. And the thing that used to catch me with you, a lot of defenders would wait to tackle you at some stage, right? But every time I hopped it, you'd always have the hand in by the time I caught the ball again, which completely unsettled the fella taking the man on.
Well, like, I just think it's a no-brainer. Like, I mean, the one time you're not in control of the ball, it's when you have to hop it or take a solo. There's no point me trying to tackle you when you're holding the ball in here, because you're not going to dispossess it 9 times out of 10.
You got it off about 9 times out of 10 when he's doing that as well.
James, just there's a quote that you gave fresh after the game that day. You were buzzing, obviously, and you said, speaking to the Western people, James O'Donoghue said, it's always good to pit yourself against the best defenders in the country. Keith is an excellent player. At half-time, I was losing that battle, and everyone was trying to give me advice and telling me what to do. But at the end of the day, you just have to go out again and have a cut at it. Can you bring us back to that dressing room at half-time? Do you remember that?
I do, to an extent. Like, as I said a minute ago, my memory was very short. Like, I didn't mind losing the ball every so often. And it was the way of it was the way of the championship. Like, if you lost it, you go again, go at it. Now, if you lose the ball, God help us, you're going to be chasing for 5 minutes. Whereas against Mayo, if you lost it, you'd have a good chance of winning it back, or else it would go over the bar or wide fairly quickly. You'd have another chance. But when you're in the dressing room and everyone else thinks you've been bet out the gate in the first half, and they come over and they go, yeah, Joe, hey, next one now, stick at it. And I'm going like, what are you talking about now? why are you saying that to me? And it was the case of like, just, you get your chance. And I was sitting there going, my God, did it go that badly? Kind of trying to go back over the chances. But then I always have a mantra, and I say it on the pod every single week. The forward only needs one ball. And like, for the defender to buy the dummy, or maybe to foul you, or to sneak a score, you're back in the game then. Whereas the defender needs. Do you reckon they weren't 2 penalties?
Absolutely not.
Oh, will you get out of town?
You kicked the ground at one stage and you jumped up into the air 6 foot.
Well, to be fair, I would say I might have played for that one a small bit, where I knew that.
Finally.
It's all coming out.
Just scratch under the surface.
There's different. You can buy a foul in football. Yours was a dive.
What?
Your penalty was 100% the dive.
Paddy, you embellished it, like, no? I'm not blaming you.
I'd never do that.
Well, I think you can buy a foul as well. As soon as you shout for it, it's a dive, I think.
I was in, like, Henley hadn't even touched me, and I was like, Morris Deegan, where is he? Morris, look at this! I was just trying to palm it into the net to get no goal.
Yeah, but no, that's just the way it is. Like, sometimes if a defender is sliding into the ball and you have a chance to shoot it, probably miss, or if you have a chance to delay your shot and let the defender slide through you, that's a decision you have in real time. It is a thing where you can play for the foul at times. Fellas buy fouls all the time now. If you look at wing forwards, they do a little dummy, and next thing you stick the hand in and they tuck it under the arm.
Referees are wise to that now.
You're a disgrace.
They are wise to it, but like, you can still get away with it once it's not a dive. Like, you can buy a foul. Like, buying a foul is not a dive.
I don't know about that now, James. We might have to come back to that in the pod another night. I don't know about that.
You can buy a foul.
You can't.
Anyone in the crowd agree with me?
No, you can't. You can't.
Just tumbleweed going across.
Barry, you mentioned there you had your little jaunt into defence for a little while with Dublin. It didn't last very long. Thankfully, you found your place. Yeah. You did come up against Keith Higgins when he played in the forwards.
Forwards?
Caused you a bit of bother in 11?
13.
In 13, but playing 11 in 13. Yeah.
You were 8 us up front in the first half. Why did they move you back?
Tom Cliff went off injured. It happened in 3 games before that, yeah. It happened quarter-final, Donegal, semi-final against Tyrone.
So we had O'Gara come on, and Kniff got a bang, and you had to come back and mark him?
Fuck. You were on O'Gara?
Yeah.
But you know the worst thing about O'Carroll tore his hamstring for the last
Don't bring that bit up.
15 minutes.
It wasn't 15 minutes to go.
And he was standing still and fucking marking him.
Is that true?
Yeah.
He was injured for the last 5 minutes. And
25.
I didn't know he'd fucking done his hamstring bad. Like, he was standing in the corner, fair enough, but like...
That's how he plays, yeah.
But, it's easy to say now you can just go balls out for the last couple of minutes when you're looking for the... But, like, I didn't know he was that badly injured. You're not going to just leave a man there on his own.
No.
But,
that was before the black cards came in as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a tough game, wasn't it?
It was the year beforehand, there was a couple of incidents. Did you enjoy playing in the forwards? Am I right in saying it? You only played there maybe once again down the line, championship game?
Played there in 16 for a couple of games, but like, I wasn't a forward. Like, do you know, I didn't know where to go.
Caused havoc though.
Do you know, like, I don't know why I was plucked there in the first place, but like the way the game was at the time, like it was so open that there was no blanket defences. So if I got the ball on the half forward line, if I bet one man, the whole thing was opening up.
Yeah.
Do you know, so like I suppose pace at that time was.
Yeah.
You'd nearly be more dangerous breaking from the back.
I used to prefer that, like, because you could see what was going ahead, because I couldn't play the game with my back to the goal.
Yes.
Do you know, I used to find it a lot easier coming from either cornerback or wing back, taking the ball going forward rather than trying to win it with your back to goal. So, but look, got a couple of games out of it.
That's the main difference, like playing in the corner forward position as opposed to like wing forward position. You see a lot of teams and they play with maybe one inside forward and a lot of half forwards to kind of come back. But the main difference is the inside forwards can play with their back to goal, and it causes more danger. Whereas like if everyone wants to come off the shoulder, there's nobody actually winning it with their back to goal like a Conor O'Callaghan. You know?
Yeah. We have been hoping to get another special guest from Mayo here tonight, but thankfully he's actually quite a good coach. Andy Moran and Leitrim are flying, so Andy couldn't make it down tonight, unfortunately. But he does have a message for the audience and our guests that we can have a look at.
Hi all, sorry I can't be there tonight. Hope you're having a great night, listening to the boys, listening to the stories. Paddy and James, I've loved the pod over the year. Bit jealous, as I've stated, bit jealous. James, you're too good, man. Keep up the great work. Absolutely loving the show at the minute. Zippy, what a legend. One of the best that ever put on the jersey and still doing it. Absolutely amazing. I was telling Tommy and Paddy over the years the stories that we had with Mickey Moran and John Morrison coming down in the car from Sligo and me dragging you out after a couple of pints and eating gone off mints and stuff like that. So listen, tell the boys a few of them stories. Have a great one and all the best, lads.
So
he painted that himself.
Yeah. I mentioned a little earlier that we're looking for questions from the audience. So if you grab Joe in the next bit, we're going to take a break in a few minutes so you can grab a pint and head to the toilet, and we'll come back with a match preview then. Joe will be going around with the mic, so if you grab him, Andy has very kindly given me a copy of his book to give away.
Jesus Christ.
Now, if anyone in Mayo hasn't already got this book, I don't know what's going on.
He's stockpiling them himself, is he?
That's from Andy. Keith Higgins, 06. I know from reading the book myself and from chatting to you here at Andy's book launch that you may not have had a Mayo career at all back around then. There was a problem. You were in college in Sligo with a load of Donegal books.
Yeah, blame the Donegal lads.
It's hard work.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a problem, but yeah, so I went down to Sligo in, was it year 3, 04?
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a small college, but it was a good crack. Everyone enjoyed themselves, but in fairness, like I played Mayo Minor in 2003 and 2004, beginning of 2005. I didn't think I was good enough, like, so I just didn't really have too much, not that I didn't have an ambition to play for Mayo, like, but I just didn't think I was good enough, so it was never really on the radar, so I was enjoying college life. And I think, in fairness, only for Andy.
Andy's in Sligo as well.
Andy was in Sligo
and
as
is
well.
Andy enjoying college life?
No, he's not. He's a different. He's bred differently, like, you know. Like, I know, in fairness to him, he did enjoy it, but like he was always so motivated, like.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, like my first game for Mayo, we played Dublin a league game in 05, and John Mahan was over the team, and he was over the under-21s as well, first at the time. So playing Dublin on a Saturday night in Parnell Park, and he brought the under-21s to play a challenge game against Dublin the next morning. So that was grand. I was thinking, right, be playing the under-21 game on the Sunday, go to the game on the Saturday night and watch it, and that was it. But one of my best mates, his 21st, was on the Friday night. So I thought, grand, we'll go in for an hour or two, we'll have a couple of bottles, and we'll head off home, because I won't be involved in the Saturday night. couple of bottles led to a couple more, and nightclub, and then a house party around 5 or 6 in the morning. Up the next day, got the bus to Dublin, and just avoided the management on the way up on the bus, down the back, couple hours sleep. Get there, I was having the pre-match meal, and the boys, senior boys, are heading off then for a team meeting. I was thinking, right, back to the bed for a couple of hours here, and next thing, get the call, Keith, in with the meeting. I was like, oh, fuck.
This is Monaghan.
So,
This is Monaghan calling.
Monaghan, yeah. So.
Had he the shorts on?
It's
February now.
Like, up here, yeah. Still the tan.
Has he the tan at this stage?
Yeah. Still looking as good as ever. But yeah, on the subs for the senior game anyways, and you know, as pale as a ghost, like, and just expecting just to be there to make up the numbers. But 25 minutes in, David Heaney gets a dead leg, and I got called to warm up, and I was like, oh, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. So got through half time anyways, and thinking he'd be fine, and came out in the second half, and he seized up again. So came on, and it was about 5 minutes into the second half, and
who are you marking? Do you remember?
I can't remember it. I can remember all of it, to be honest. But
you should have forgot the boots.
I should have forgot the boots. Yeah. So yeah, but like, that's just the way it was at the time. But like around that time, like I said, only for Andy was kind of in Sligo as well, and he'd be dragging you to gym sessions and dragging you down the road for training and making sure you're there to get a lift with Mickey Moran and the boys down. And like, in fairness, he probably won't agree with it, but like, I probably do owe him a lot. Like, so.
Would I be right in saying the following year you're 21's captain?
06, yeah.
Did you lead by example?
On or off the field, is it? No, in fairness, like, that's under-21 was a very, very good football team, but they also knew how to enjoy themselves as well. So, then, like, it was just different times back then, like, you know.
I presume it was very different then in the middle of the decade when you're chasing these boys. So you got it out of your system back then?
Yeah, I think come 2011, 2012, I think when James came in, he just brought a different kind of, I suppose, level of professionalism to it. Like, there was, you still went out and enjoyed yourself when the time was right, but it was done when the time was right, like, you know.
2011, 2012, you're probably still getting out of your system, are you? You're in DCU at the time?
I was in the Betty Ford clinic at the time, I think, 2011. Yeah, Pat bombed me off the team. I was loving college life too much. I lived in DCU. Let's go crack now, yeah.
He's not saying too much about that, is he?
No.
Could have teed that one up. I'm trying to think what I can and can't say here. No, it was this, I think it's across the board. Well, probably not as much with underage teams now, but back then...
It got very serious, though, after that, didn't it?
Yeah, but I think the quality got a lot better as well, and the athleticism in teams as well. It's not like, there's a bit of nostalgia. You look back to days gone by, and you're thinking, it was better back then, but we were only chatting beforehand during lockdown. TG Carr were showing the older games. I think they showed our 13 final, and you're looking at it through the lens of today, and the quality was really poor. Like, it was turnovers all the time. And back then in the noughties, like, it was like, I think the Nordies led the charge, didn't they? Armagh in 02 and Tyrone won in 03, whereas a lot of other counties were still
catching up.
Yeah, it wasn't as professional. It's still not a bloody professional sport, but back then you'd play a league game and you'd probably go on the beer for 2 days, like, type thing. And that was just the norm back then, and then it just got a lot more serious. And particularly, we're very fortunate. Obviously, the three of us were in high-profile counties that are competing for the biggest prizes, and that it just got to a stage where you had to leave that stuff behind. And I was probably late getting to the party with that, and that's why Pat would have had a couple of words with me about it, and I was just kind of thinking I'd be all right here because this is what it was always like. But the game was moving on, and I remember, say, Jim's first year in 13. And obviously it was the beginning of our battles that we'd have over the next 7 or 8 years. And it was like, you think it's so professional at that point. You're going, there's literally not another thing we could do to improve this. And then by the time I was retiring 7 years later, that was like chalk and cheese. Like, there's always ways to improve, and it's still happening now. I think we all agree, like, we're all obviously a bit older now, but the enjoyment factor is, I think it's waning across the board, and you see that with lots of players stepping away from teams. We had it ourselves, obviously, with a couple of high-profile guys in Dublin, and across the board, because it's a massive ask, and there's lots of other things. Football isn't the only thing, but I think we probably got the best of both worlds, didn't we? Like,
I think there's a good trade-off between professionalism, but yet the camaraderie built up on these kind of nights out and things like that, whereas at the moment, just when I finished up last year, I remember we were after a Munster final and we all went into to Reedy's in Killarney, and there was fellas drinking coffee and eating protein balls.
Where's your head at that stage?
Huh?
Where's your head at that stage? Are you on the way out the door?
On the vodkas, were you?
A vodka and a protein ball, please. Yeah, like all the kind of the older fellas were drinking pints and trying to kind of get a bit of crack going, whereas the mentality of some fellas is kind of like, and probably rightly so, park that onto the next one. But like there is definitely a balancing act, and at the moment it's probably going. You're going to lose fellas with the enjoyment because it is waning, like it is going.
How did you find retirement from the football? I said it earlier on. You're obviously still playing hurling. Do you feel like you've retired?
No, I think like I finished up into 2020, like, and obviously there was a big gap then from when the end of 2020 to the 21 season started because of COVID. I think it was April, was it?
Yeah.
So there was 2 or 3 months there where you're kind of just plodding along. You're kind of thinking, you know, you'll do a bit of work on your own, but you don't really do much, like. And then when that season started, it was just non-stop, week on week, up until we finished with the club in November. So, like, it was probably busier than ever, really. Like, and it's the same now. And look, that's the thing with the split season, whether it's, you know, people debate whether it's a good or a bad thing. But because the inter-county season is so condensed and the club season is so condensed, it's literally non-stop. Like, so, but look, my view on that will probably change once I just go back with the club full time. So
you didn't miss the bubble of being in the Mayo camp for that unbelievable journey for 7 or 8 years?
Not really. Like, there's certain aspects of it you miss. Like, you miss being in there having the crack with the boys, and like I never missed the training, but you'd miss nearly going training and having the crack as well. Do you know what I mean? And like as we were saying earlier on, like there's once you're out of that bubble, you're gone out of it. Like it's just
ruthless.
Yeah, and you kind of have to have that mentality because if you're still trying to live your life back in there, you're wasting your time. So look, things move on as you realise there's big. So we said you realise there's other things in life. Is that when you're in that bubble, you think this is the only thing in the world. As soon as you get out of it, it's just like life moves on.
Yeah, you set the retirement blueprint last year, didn't you? Something new every week. Golfing, travelling, getting married.
Living life, lads.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, like you have to pay the price.
Do you miss the bubble?
No. Couldn't fucking pay me to go back. Like.
They paid you long enough when you were there, I said.
But it is. It's gas. Genuinely, we were chatting about this because we're all semi-recent retired, like, but there's a thing, right? It's heavy going, right? And you look at what, and Jimmy, you were talking, going, like, you'd love to kick a spinner on Crow Park again and go, yeah, everyone would love to do that. It's magic, like. There's 10 months behind that. That doesn't just happen. And the price you have to pay to be successful and to play to your potential, because there's no point fucking around and not doing that. Because you'll annoy your teammates, you'll annoy your coaches, you won't be there very long. You're not doing yourself justice. But you never, when you're in it, I never seen that as a chore. And we all would have done some horrendous training and made massive sacrifice and missed family weddings and holidays, everything like all that type of stuff for 10 months of the year. But the second that starts becoming a chore, get out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there. Because, and I had it, funny thing, we were chatting about it, we played Mayo in the 2019 semi-final and we were both probably on our last legs. I think we both came on late in the game and we won the game. We were obviously kind of the 5 in a row was the big thing for us, and I'd obviously have a lot of time for Keith, and just went up and shook his hand at the end. It was just like, won't be seeing you again, and you were like the same. And fucking 6 months later, 2 of us were back again. It couldn't drag us out.
Like, you couldn't let it go.
But look, it's a hard decision at the time because it's so personal, and you can have the conversation and go, he should be gone or he should be in or whatever it is, but it's a massive part of your life. But my advice, if anyone asked me about it, and when I had conversations with players, not just Dublin lads, but guys you'd know who might be stepping away, that was my trigger when you're driving out the train and you're going, this is heavy going. I'd fucking rather be at work type thing. When it becomes a chore, that's the writings on the wall.
Like, you never want to be out of it. Like, you always want to be there, stuck in the middle for as long as you can. But if you're a 25 or 26-year-old, when you get to 34 and 35 and these young lads fucking bursting by, you're like, this is the spot for me.
Looking in from the outside, I would have felt that you probably had another year, just the way you were and the way you played. Do you feel like that?
Possibly, yeah. You could have got through the year. Like, what type of an impact you've had in it is the other story. Like, so, yeah, you probably felt you could have stayed on for another year, but as Paddy said, you don't want to be hanging on there and getting niggles of injuries and not starting and struggling through training and getting pissed off with everything. Because then, as I said, the whole enjoyment goes out of it. And you're no good to yourself, you're no good to the team, you're just getting through the year. So I didn't want to have a year like that. So I just said, yeah, time to go.
I had a year like that.
You had it, Jimmy, as well. But it becomes obvious. That's the thing. And these are all your mates and the coaches. And if you're off, your body language and you're fucking trying to get a knock, everyone can see. If you're that close, you spend that much time together, yeah, it's very noticeable.
Did you struggle, James, before you
I did. I struggled mentally like that. I was kind of going to training and I was like, how's my calf or how's my shoulder? And I was thinking more about getting through it than actually enjoying it and maybe making impact. So I knew I was like, I'm just going in here to get through, which is never the level of Kerry. You know, you have to go in there and absolutely explode if you can. And then AVB matches came up and there'd be some young fella who'd be lifting and you're hobbling on, you know, into your position and kind of going, nah, this just isn't right. So like it's an awful mental struggle. And there's a fine line between thinking, be mentally strong, battle on, and getting out at the right time. And like a lot of fellas I know who've given it up are still kind of bitter. They think they went too early or else hung on too late. If you can go at the right time, it's nearly as valuable as the other couple of years, you know.
You went mid-season. Was that the right time?
I don't know. Well, now that we lost, I suppose it was the right decision.
You were there though, Jimmy.
I wasn't going to get any game time and I wasn't going to prepare the boys. Okay. I thought in my own head. So I was like, then you kind of get paranoid. You're thinking, these fellas know I'm not motoring at all, like, and you're only kind of a nuisance. So I was like, I have to get out here and get back to my club, at least kind of play with someone. That was where it went to for me. Like, I don't know how he got on with that, but the club scene is still very big down in Kerry, so yeah. I still had somewhere to go. I wasn't completely outcast. Yeah. With that good friend Dennis.
All right, lads. I think we're going to take a short break. You've all been very attentive, and thanks very much again to the huge crowd that's turned out here at the very first Football Pod Live. We'll be back in about 10 minutes' time, so grab a pint, have a chat there, and we'll be back with a match preview. Thank you. So, the Mayo footballers. Is it fair to say there was a bit of a buzzkill there about a month ago? Galway beating you.
6 weeks.
6 weeks ago. It was nearly like a balloon getting deflated. Has the buzz come back, Keith? Or is there, am I right in saying I feel a bit of tension in the air going into this weekend?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's, obviously it's a low disappointment after losing that game to Galway for a couple of weeks. There's probably a lot of questions thrown around, but definitely the last two or 3 weeks, especially then since the draw was made, I think there is a lot of people just not sure where we're at, I suppose. You can just kind of get that sense. Usually the build up to these games is a load of eagerness. The whole county's looking forward to it, but I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong, but it's just you get the sense that there's just that bit of not quite sure where we are at the moment. Probably with all the injuries over the last 2 weeks as well. Not quite sure who's going to line out. So yeah, it's probably fair to say.
I don't think we were saying that about Mayo halfway through the league, lads. We were talking them up. I was down in Tralee that night. I feel like they were absolutely exceptional against Kerry that night in Tralee, possibly the best we saw of them. We were complimenting James Horan for again bringing through more young players. We were looking at the Dubs and we were saying the Dubs were finished.
We weren't all saying that, but no, we spoke about this in the pod, and I was surprised you're hearing stuff now over the last couple of weeks, and it is obviously very result orientated. But if you remember, Mayo went through a phase of similar to what Dublin were going through with Desi, where there was an age there where there was 7, 8, 9, 10 iconic players, not just fucking like top quality players, characters that were leaving the team, and Horan had to manage that transition. And Mayo got the back-to-back All-Ireland finals. And okay, they didn't win them, and there's always a stigma around Mayo because that's building up, and you lose one and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But that's phenomenal work with the turnover of players to do that when they're in transition. And we were looking in the springtime and saying Desi was trying to do this with Dublin, with the exact same scenario. There was 8, 9, 10 players who'd stepped away, and they're trying to bleed in young guys at the top level, and Dublin was struggling. And Mayo were flying it. We're thinking, Horan's doing it again here, like. And I'd have massive time for Horan, like, from the outside. I don't know him. From the outside looking in, I think phenomenal job. And I'm surprised to hear that there's divisions. Like, Mayo are at their strongest when there's unity there. Like James has said, and Keith, you obviously know, and you guys here, when the supporters are there, the players are there, Horan's there, the county, but everyone's just pulling in the same direction. They're an absolute handful. And so I'm surprised to hear that there's that sort of, maybe not a fracture, it's too strong a word, and we're only speculating from the outside, but you do hear these things, that there's injuries and maybe not all's not well, but Mayo made the league final, and you're thinking, that's serious going. We spoke about it, go after this game, and they threw their arse at it in Croke Park. It was
what do you mean by that?
It was a diabolical performance. Watching from it, it was like they didn't want to be there. We were going, how could you not? You've gone through, you've got to a league final. The nicest way, like, Mayo haven't won a lot of finals. Like, why are you just throwing one away? And it was like, oh, well, we don't want to show our hand against Galway. I tell you now, Galway know what Mayo are going to do. Mayo know what Galway. You know each other that well. There's no master plan hidden in the background that we'll put out a kind of shadow team and we'll throw this league final and it'll be grand in 3 weeks' time. I just thought it was an odd approach, and they were eviscerated by Kerry, and Kerry were obviously at top form at that stage of the season. And since that point, never mind the Galway game, that kind of just sat in there, and we spoke about it. And then you get into the Galway game, and the second half was car crash stuff. Points in 30 minutes of play. Obviously, Killian coming back was a massive plus because he's such an inspirational player, and he takes heat off, particularly with Tommy Conroy being injured, and he takes heat off O'Donoghue. But missing guys like Paddy Dirk and Rob Henley, Ushie Mullen goes off injured then as well. Mayo don't have massive depth, but not many teams in the country across the board could afford to lose players of that calibre. And the second half performance was just a complete mirror image of the league final. It was like no ideas up front, totally flat. This was in Castlebar.
They had their 10 minutes though, and they still, like, watching back that game, even
the last 2 minutes,
they still probably could have caught Galway in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But that nearly goes back to what we mentioned earlier on, is that, like, when it came to the last 10 minutes and you're 5 or 6 points down, you literally just have to
let go, like.
sink at it.
Were you there?
No.
Okay.
I was over in London at a hurling game, so I didn't even see it. No, but like, it goes back to my point earlier, is like that last 10 minutes.
Did you watch it?
I saw the last 20 minutes of it, yeah.
Okay.
You thought they were flying it?
Yeah, it's like a good chance there. No, but again, it goes back to my point, that, like, Galway were 5 or 6 points up, cruising in their structure set up. Mayo were struggling to break it down, and then it was just like, right, there's 10 minutes to go here. You've nothing to lose. You just have to go balls out, attack this. And maybe Galway sat back a small bit, but maybe, again, it just turned into that bit of chaos for the last 10 minutes. And
but Roscommon did that to Galway. Like, when you're down enough, it's like being 2-0 down in a soccer match. You have to go for it. So you have to get at least 2 or 3 goals. Like, if you're down enough, I don't give any kind of any kudos
the other team
for having to come back
a bit as well. Like.
Exactly. Yeah. The other team are going to absorb it. Don't concede any goals, and you'll chip the points.
That's not hiding, obviously, the fact that the rest of the game was fairly poor. But look, there's obviously questions there. Like I said, there's questions there after the league final, after the Galway game, and look, I suppose down through the years, Mayo going through the qualifiers, they have backed it up. Obviously, the questions will remain to be seen until Saturday evening, whether they'll do it again. And
does it feel like 17 is a good example? I think did you have 10 matches in 17 going through the qualifiers? Like, you should have been caught. Like, you weren't.
Yeah, we were lucky against Derry, we were lucky against Cork, lucky against Roscommon.
Well,
you know, we were lucky.
You replay against Roscommon, yeah.
But look, I suppose
the
one thing I would say about that is,
was there questions in the county at that stage? Were there people asking questions of what was going on?
Possibly. Like, I'll be honest, I can't remember, because we mentioned earlier on, like, you were trying to shield yourself away from all that. Like, you're in this so-called bubble, not that you want to call it that, but you're deflecting everything else away. Like, you're going to work, you're avoiding all the talk, you're coming home and you're training, you're playing the games week on week. So you're literally trying to stay away from all that. And that's no disrespect to the public, because obviously, as James said, we fed off a lot of that, but midweek you're trying to stay away from it. Like, do you know? So
can I just ask something? Obviously, a lot of Mayo fans here. What was your beating Kerry in the league final? Now, what was your reaction to that performance, or just a lack of energy from it? It was such an un-Mayo-like performance, and it just looked like they weren't arsed about being it. Like, I would have thought that would have been a massive thing for Mayo supporters to beat Kerry in Croke Park. Was there disappointment? Was there, okay, we're playing the long game here, or what was the response? Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it? Like, it's incredible. You're going, huh? Come back to me in about 8 weeks. Like that.
Just, Joe, you all know Joe Conroy. Joe's going to be going around with the mic. He's over there on the right there. We are looking for a couple of questions in about 10 minutes' time. So grab Joe, put up your hand and grab Joe.
I just thought it was an odd thing. It was like you got to the league final.
It was strange. It definitely was strange.
Yeah.
We actually said it on the pod.
Yeah.
We kind of thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was like,
see it.
Horan does not give a shit about this league final, because he tried not to get there. Because he played a strong team against Killarney, or in Killarney against Kerry, or in Tralee against Kerry. Then he played nobody against Tyrone.
But is that not a little bit of him developing the players in the squad? There's a lot of young, like Keith, you walk away in.
But when you get there, when you finally got there, why not go for it?
Win it, yeah.
Because Pádraig Joyce is going to see what your team is. I can tell you what the Mayo team is going to be.
But if you do think back, right, if you try and tap into James Horan's mind, in the previous year it was North and South in the league, wasn't it? And Mayo were Division 2. So they played a couple of games, kiss my arse games, against nobody good, realistically, won them all. And then the league final was called off because Kildare had a championship match. Right, so
the GAA at work.
That was an absolute nothing league for Mayo.
Yeah.
And they got to the final of the All-Ireland. Do you know what I mean? So, like, he must be thinking, right, we've had this experience, we had Kiss My Arse League, and we got it together for the...
Never heard that phrase before.
Kiss My Arse League.
No.
Vintage Kerry, isn't it? The longer the night the more Kerry is coming out. Like.
Yeah, but they got to the final. So
yeah,
he's thinking, we've played all these brilliant teams, we've held our own, we've got to the final, right, look, we don't want to show any more, let's just park it.
I feel like, though, that league win in 19 was a big thing for your team.
It was a big thing for that group of players, because we hadn't really won a national title. Do you know, like, if you went back to 2012, 2013, and if we got to a league semi-final, it was like, you know, it's grand to be there, but the league isn't what you want to win. Do you know? But then, even if you asked Andy about this as well, like, that league thing was a big thing for the older lads, because we'd gone through losing a lot, like, to actually win national title was a big thing. But I think, and look, you can't paper over the cracks of that Kerry performance, the league. But I think sometimes, and this is an excuse for all of it, but sometimes you have to look at where the team is at. So I don't think winning that league was going to be a huge thing for that Mayo team.
They'd lost 2 national finals.
Yeah, I understand that.
There's a lot of young players there. Like.
But at the same time, I think you went back to the start of the league, Jack O'Shea probably set out, or O'Connor set out his stall very early, in that he probably wanted to win something for that Kerry team.
He had the chest out. Jack was making sure...
They had a plan earlier on to go all out for the league, whereas I don't think Mayo had.
Okay.
Now, obviously, I agree with your point. When you get there, why not try and win it? But at the same time, you're probably trying to weigh it up, like, what's the most important thing here?
And it did feel like in February, March, that things were going okay for Mayo. How does the life get sucked out of it so much that there's this deflation, I suppose, going into the weekend? Am I right in saying that? Are people excited?
Yeah, I think they'd have probably gone into the league final thinking, right, it's not the end of the world if we don't win it.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could have seen getting a hockey in by as much as they got. And that probably took a lot of the wind out of the sails. You went to the Galway game, then obviously you're down a few injuries. Oisin goes off halfway through the second half, and the wheels start to fall off. At that stage, it is very difficult to turn around. It's not like you can just flick a switch and next thing everyone's kind of back on song here and you're going for it again. Like, do you know? So that's kind of what I'm saying is that's why this weekend is so important. That's like, I mean, you can't predict some of these things, and that's why. this is why the boys are going to make their predictions.
That's it. So, Monaghan are coming to town. We didn't make our prediction on the Football Pod this week. The Football Pod is, of course, brought to you every week by AIB, proud sponsors of the Senior Football Championship. Check out the toughest for more, James.
Your favourite line.
Who's going to win this weekend?
I was just thinking as the boys were talking there, the problem with Mayo at the moment, right, is that there's so much time between losing to Galway and playing their qualifier against Monaghan.
Yeah.
So many problems arise in that gap. Whereas if you have a week, it's like, right, park that next week. Whereas if you have 3 weeks or a month, to let that fester, and everyone is kind of talking about how in trouble Mayo are, it gets into the group. So, like, for that reason, mentally, I think that Mayo are going to be under pressure, and the fact that they have so many injuries in the form of Conroy, who is, like, when he got injured, I was depressed for him and depressed for Mayo, because he's so good to watch. There's rumours Ryan O'Donoghue who's going to be out. Oisin Mullen, how fit is he? Padraig O'Hara, how fit is he? Could be out. Plunkett.
Where are you getting these rumours from? I didn't hear O'Hara.
Lads, Jimmy's sources, I'm telling you, all these fellas are doubtful, right?
Never trust the man.
All these fellas are doubtful. And if you look at Monaghan lost to Derry, but would they be getting the hammering that Mayo got in the press and things like that? I don't think so. So I think mentally they're on a better level, and I think they have less injuries, and they have dangerous forwards in McCarron.
So you're teeing it up here, Jimmy.
So what are you going for?
I don't like saying it, right? But I think that Mayo are going to be under pressure. I think that Monaghan have the edge at the moment.
Really?
The only thing that will save Mayo is Castlebar and the crowd. It's honestly a 16th, 17th player. But like, Monaghan coming down.
You're not reading the script that's here in front of you. That's not what you're supposed to say.
He's gone off piece.
I'm surprised by that. I really don't think it's that bad in Mayo. Like, we hear rumours about players being out and injured. And I know legitimately there's a couple of things that have been confirmed and some things that, you know, mightn't be as bad as they are. But I don't think things are that bad in Mayo. And they're the type of team, it doesn't take much, Keith. Like you mentioned flicking a switch earlier. Sometimes in a summer in championship football, all a group needs is a game like Monaghan to get focused.
Yes.
Yeah, look, it comes down to it, like, it's make or break, like. And again, like, Mayo haven't had a good track record in Connacht over the last 6 years, 7 years, bar obviously the last 2 years, which were COVID and it was knockout, whatever. You know, so when it comes to knockout stages, that's when Mayo play their best. Like, you'd hope it's going to be the thing that will kickstart them. As James said, a 5 or 6 week break sometimes can be good, sometimes it can be a hindrance. But I think listen to James was asking me if they kind of took a week or so off after that Monaghan game, just let boys go back to their own thing, and then came back at it. I'm sure there was a lot of hard sessions, a lot of soul searching done. You know, if you got that win over Monaghan and then you start going games in a rapid succession, that's when you can start building up momentum. But yeah, look, that's why Mixed Saturday is such a big game for them.
That's the way the qualifiers are set up this year. You're going to have a game this weekend, game the following weekend, then we have the All-Ireland quarterfinals. Do you think we're going to see Mayo in the All-Ireland quarterfinals, Paddy?
That's why I think this weekend it's very hard to get a read on, because it'll be 7 weeks since Mayo have played. Monaghan go well, possibly should have beat Derry. Like, everyone's singing Derry's praises. They're one of the best teams in the country now, and Monaghan easily could have won that game. You look at Tyrone and Armagh on Sunday up in the athletic grounds. Tyrone have been diabolical. Armagh were so bad against Donegal. They've had 5-6 weeks to come back. We've no form to go off going in this week. After this weekend, you'll be able to see, and that's the beauty of it, whoever comes out of Castlebar on Saturday night and whoever comes out of the athletic grounds on Sunday are right back in the mix.
Yeah.
Right back in the mix. But where I'd worry for Mayo, they've struggled against set defences. I think that's always been an issue. I think that's an issue with you lads and Kerry as well. And particularly if there's Paddy Durkin is massive to come back. When they're playing against a set defence, you need pace, you need runners. Lee has obviously done it for 10 years. He's probably, I would imagine he'll be tasked with marking one of the boys, either McCarron or McManus. He mightn't be getting forward as much, and he's fucking miles on the clock. That's just reality of it. I think that's a big issue for Mayo at the weekend, particularly if Ryan O'Donoghue is out. You're thinking, what has Killian got from... That was his first game, essentially, coming back against Galway. He's had a 6-7 week window, challenge games or whatever it is. I think that's an area where it's going to be so tight and they're up against it. But, and this is based off just kind of experience with Mayo and what Keith is saying and James Horan and those guys who've been around the block, I would find it hard to fathom that Mayo would play 2 home championship games, lose them both and be out of the championship now. I think everything that's gone on, the history of Mayo, you write them off so many times and we've written them off so many times. I think there has to be a massive performance for James, for some of those older players, that the Castlebar thing should play a factor, and I think the fans will play a massive part in that as well. But I think it's going to be so tight to call. That the breaking down that Monaghan defensive system has always been an issue for Mayo. That's the game going to be won and lost there.
But you say the game's going to be like chaos. The last time Monaghan were dragged into chaos was against Armagh. They bet Armagh that day, but it was open. Like, you know, you talk about Monaghan being sticky defensively. I don't know. I think this could suit Mayo playing a team like Monaghan, drawing them into Castlebar.
I don't think that.
If the game's played the right way, like if the game's played on Mayo terms where they wanted to be fast, they wanted to be open.
And can they set those 100%. Terms?
You can try, but it's very difficult. Like, I mean, like you look at the Derry-Monaghan game, like the first half was awful defensive, and obviously Derry were well on top, and in the second half when Monaghan came out and actually played with a bit of pace and they played with, they just controlled possession and they drove at them.
Put the squeeze on the kick out.
And they put the squeeze on them, and they brought that game back to, I think it was 3 points until Derry got the third goal.
Yeah.
And like they had a load of chances as well. Like, so, yeah, you can break down a packed defence, but it's all about how you play the game, and if you can get up to that level of pace and intensity, you have a chance.
We have a couple of questions from the crowd. Do you want to jump in first?
I do think that when Mayo can dictate the pace of the game, they're arguably the best team in the country, right? But Galway found a way.
Really?
I don't agree with
I'm going to question you on that.
Huh?
Do you feel like that? Best team in the country when they dictate?
When it's on their terms, right? When the game is played helter-skelter, and it's fast, and it's turnovers, and it's points, and it's the crowd, and you're going, I am caught in a storm here. Then absolutely. But Galway, if you think about it, they found a way to get a head injury for 2 minutes, to foul some fella and lie on top of him for 20 seconds.
Jimmy, that's Galway. What do you think Monaghan are going to do?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. Monaghan, Donny Buckley knows Mayo inside out.
He is here all week.
But that is the thing, though. It was Cian O'Neill against Galway, and now Donny Buckley's on the sideline, and they were both part of Horan's first management teams the first time around.
Sure, Donny was involved up in 18, you know, so...
Yeah.
Like, the bottom line here is neither of the two boys can read a room because they both seem to be going with Monaghan.
That's...
honest to God,
Did you give your prediction?
Based off no logic whatsoever, which is the best way for predictions, I think Mayo will nick it. And honestly, because...
I don't know what happened between the walkout here, because in the green room we practiced this and you both said Mayo.
I just think it would be a massive, where Mayo have been, like they've been the All-Ireland finalists the last 2 years as well. There's still massive talent there. Horan's been around the block so long. It's in Castlebar. I think it would be diabolical to have 2 home games and lose them both to be out of the championship.
Right, but Paddy, right, think of this. No Tommy Conroy, no Ryan O'Donoghue.
Hold on now, we don't know if Ryan O'Donoghue's out or not.
Okay, but that's what I'm basing it off. That's the word on the street.
The world's biggest pinch of salt. I'm taking all of this stuff.
Did somebody give you the team or something?
No, but that is just the word on the street.
You were meeting Horan today, that's why you were late.
But say if they were missing those 2, which is what I'm basing my prediction off, right? If you took Conor O'Callaghan and Kilkenny out of Dublin's team, would you ever back them to win at the moment? Or if you took Clifford and Shawnee Shea out of the Kerry team? Like, I don't think that we realise what big a loss Tommy Conroy is.
Yeah,
and Cillian O'Connor is probably now up to 80%. Do you know, there's going to be a lot of responsibility on him. He is going to have to kick some serious points.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to be brilliant. Yeah. So I just wonder, are those injuries going to cost him?
Before I put you on the spot, Keith, I'm going to go to Joseph Conroy. Joe, give us a wave. Where are you?
Hello, hello.
Have you got a question for us from the crowd?
Got a question here. The mic is hot. If you want to get involved, stick your hand up and get as many people as we can. Going to start off with our friend here. Can you tell us who you are and what you want to know?
Kieran from Cavan.
Kieran, how are you doing?
Just wondering how will Mayo people feel when Cavan win All-Ireland before them?
It'll have to be next year because they're in the Talton Cup, but anyway. Tell him, don't give that man another gargle. Well, man, I'm only messing with you.
Calvin Abu. Have you another one for us, Joe?
Got one here in the centre, making our way over. How's it going? Do you want to let us who you are, and what your question is?
Yeah, Kevin from Brafey.
Hi, Kevin.
Question for Keith. Keith, all the All-Irelands you were ever involved in, if you could go back, like, is there any one thing you would change or anything you would do differently?
I'd win them all, I suppose. It'd be the,
it was a good night up until then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Cheers, Grim Reaper.
Could change. Like I mentioned, 13 there. I think was probably our best chance. You know, yeah. Chatting to Andy before and a few other boys, like they always mentioned 2012, but I just think we were probably nearly a bit too early in the development at that stage. Donegal were probably at the same stage, but their game plan a better off. 17, I don't think we could have done much more.
Yeah.
But for me, just 13 sticks out in that I don't think we played very well that day. You probably say you didn't play well that day either, but
that was because what you guys did.
Yeah, I just think 13 was the one we left behind. Like we went in, maybe did we win a point or two up at half time, whereas we should have been probably 4 or 5 up. It was a soft goal Brogan got.
Bruno gets the goal.
You know, we gifted them another couple of points. So I just think for me, 13 was the one that we left behind, and that's probably the hardest one to take. So
okay.
Obviously we came closer in 16 and 17, but
16 not the one. 16 such a freak.
Yeah,
is that the own goals?
Sorry, Paddy.
Yeah.
It is. It's the own goals. Paddy Andrews comes off the bench.
Lit it up, yeah.
2 points. You were pretty sensational that day.
They hadn't kicked a point from play up until something minutes.
You were the only Dublin forward, I think, to score from play that day.
Yeah.
Like, when you keep the Dubs to 2-9, you keep the Dubs to 2-9 in an All-Ireland final.
It was diabolical conditions, though. Yeah. It was mad. The 15 and 16 finals were played in biblical, like Castlebar in February over McHale Park weather. But I'd agree with you. I think 13 was massive. Our kick out, Cluxton's obviously an icon for us, but we couldn't get the ball, like, and we'd no structure up front. It was early. That was Jim's first season, so you'd been to the All Ireland final the year before. That was early in our development, and we didn't have the game management and the nous, I suppose, which we had in later years as well. And
we were flying all year in 13, like we'd steamroll goal up in Pierce
quarters,
Stadium.
Them,
First time in the house, well, not that we won there, but we absolutely hammered them up in Pierce Stadium. I know it was London in the Connacht final, but hammered Donegal in the quarter final. Bet Tyrone by 5 or 6 in semi-final, but that was a decent enough Tyrone team around that stage.
Yeah.
You know, so we were going really well that year.
Okay.
Played, just didn't play well in the final, but still could have won it. Like, so for me, 13 is the one.
13 is the one.
Didn't Dublin get a lot of goals, like off the post, and it would come down into a fella's hand? He got a load of goals in like semi-finals and finals. Either points dropped short, flicked in.
Well, Man U had the one.
Off the post, down into a fella's hand, or else a penalty, a dive. Like, he did get an element of luck there.
You were hanging around with that Cavan fella.
Cavan for the Talton. But you know, there was those elements of fortune where Mayo were definitely deprived of that element of luck. Like, sometimes just falls their way. Like, for the one that I won, with the way that Durkin kicked the ball to Donaghy. Like, that one carrying All Ireland.
Did you perform that day?
We performed the game that we tried to perform, which was a Depression Central game. It was, honestly, the couple of weeks in training before that were a shocker.
Really?
Oh, it was horrible.
What, like, you went out to stop Donegal after what they did to Dublin?
Basically, yeah. What we did was tactically, we kept 1 to 7 at home.
Yeah, structure.
Do not attack. So anytime we turned the ball over, they were running into a block. And then we got our shooters out the field. So we had, like, in training in the couple of weeks leading up to it, there was no D or inside line. It was just a big area of cones, and you had to take the shots from outside the area. Yeah. And we knew that it was going to be like 60%ers, even 50%ers, but that would get us enough points because we thought they wouldn't score enough. But my God, it was hard to train. It was
the gig, Jimmy, though. Won us the game.
It won us the game. Well, the kick-out won us the game, probably. But, like, it got us in contention, all right?
Not like any sympathy.
Mayo were never afraid to try something different. Like, especially, I'm thinking back to the Rochford era. Rochford always had a wild card in his pocket. He'd try something different. Stick O'Shea on Donaghy.
Yeah, Stephen was good that way. Like, he wasn't afraid to try things. And I think, you have to be able to try and adapt, and depending on who you're playing. Like we always had that mantra was just like you just go flat out, especially against Dublin, because no team had done that to them. Like so, you had to go with that. But like Stephen was like that even when he came in. He was, I think we played Kevin McLaughlin for a sweeper in 16.
Yeah. You had the game against Tyrone when he had Dylan on.
Dillo centre forward.
Forced Mickey Hart's hand. Hart makes a switch.
Take him off.
Second Tyrone changed their team. Rochford pulls Dylan and brings on Barry Moran.
Double bluff.
I love that one.
Yeah, like that was a great tactical move. But again, something simple as putting Nato full back. Like everyone would be talking about, he's the only man that Mark Donaghy, but no one would have the balls to go out and do it. Like. And that was a big move, and it could have backfired in the first game, but he stuck at it.
Yeah.
So like you kind of have to admire any coach who goes out and actually who takes a chance on something like that.
Yeah.
Joe, have we one more question from the crowd?
Yeah, I got another question here. If you want to introduce yourself and let us know where you're from.
Oisin from Manitoba. Just for the three lads, James Horan hasn't released a full list of the players on the squad and hasn't been providing a full list of updates on injured players, which has left us in a situation where we're speculating as fans and in the media, we're speculating as to who will or won't be available. Just what do you think is his thinking behind that heading into a game like this?
What do you mean? Keeping the panel quiet, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Can I go to Paddy first?
We always do that, yeah.
Did you worry about what anyone else outside was thinking about the team or who'd be on the team?
Again, I'm trying to be wary of knowing the audience here, but that we would have always done that as well. Like we released the subs, released the team, and it was always a fake team the day before.
And would you know that?
Oh yeah. I'd been named in teams, and we'd go home and like tell my man there, my wife, oh yeah, I'm flying it. Yeah, I'm playing tomorrow. No, I'm not. Like.
Yeah.
And then with the subs thing, we started doing that later as well. Dublin do it. I think a lot of teams do it now.
Do what?
They don't even name the subs until you get into the ground and you have the match programme. Again, and it's just, why would you give... I know, when you're in it, you're thinking, we're the supporters, we'd like to know, like, but Monaghan would find that out as well. Other things, like, why would you give away sort of information? I just think it's a culture of the GAA. I don't think it's just James Horan. I think it's across the board. We were chatting about this as well. Like, is the Mayo team named tomorrow, do you think that team is going to play 1-15? I think the GAA should come in and just say, scrap that, like nearly rugby or whatever it is, name the team on a Thursday, and if it's not the same, there's a fine or something like that. Because you are kept in the dark, but I wouldn't say that's just a James Horan thing. I think that's across the board. Like.
I actually played, we were playing Monaghan away in the Super 8s in 2018.
Oh yeah.
And I was named 15, and I wasn't playing.
Yeah, I've had that.
And none of my family were going, like, aunts, the family weren't going. Next thing, team was named, I was on. Next thing, phone goes mental. Give me tickets, give me tickets.
To drive the Clonus, it's about 8 days away from you lot. Like.
They all went.
Oh,
next thing, ball was about to be thrown in. Substitution on the Kerry team.
Were you
my father going, fucking bollocks again.
Could you not tell them, though?
I couldn't.
No,
I
you
couldn't
can't
say it.
Like,
I can't say
it.
Like,
that does
it's
happen.
so
Like,
awkward, like, yeah.
Players would have gone through situations where they won't tell their family members they're not starting.
No.
Just for that fear of it getting out. But like, to answer your question, James's thing going back to the last 10 years was that like he always kept an open-ended panel. There was never a case where he had a set 32 and that was it for the year. There was no in or out.
Okay.
He always had an open-ended panel, and he made no secret of that. Like.
So he'd be bringing in lads halfway through the summer.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
But then, like, I don't hear injury updates from Monaghan or from Dublin or from Armagh, Tyrone.
And you won't.
Do you know? So, like, I don't know, and I'm not having a go here, like, but I don't know, is it just a Mayo thing, is that, like, we're so invested in it that we have to know, like, do you know? Maybe I'm not reading the room here either, like, but it's just, I don't know if it happens all over the other country or is it just us.
It does.
But I do think it's good. It's good for, like, the supporters to know at least who's in training. Like, I think that's important. Like, you have the...
It's good for the media as well, to be able to preview the bloody game and know what you're talking about.
And it's nice for the players involved, because, like...
Yeah. The players know. The players know. Outside the camp. I can totally see... You say... James Horan comes out this week and goes, Ahora's injured, Killian's injured, Paddy Durkin's injured.
First 15, I would say, is different, in fairness.
But what do you think Banty's doing in Monaghan? Like, it's not just once it's in the public domain, as supporters, you feel we're supporting the team, we want to get behind the lads, we're entitled to know in the camp, genuine, that's not the thoughts. That's the reality of it.
Good question.
If you guys know, our opposition know, and why are you giving them an inch? And this is the cult-like behaviour we're talking about. But if that game comes down to a point, we're talking about Dylan starting against the guard, and they have a game plan. What do you think Conor McManus is thinking if he knows, well, I'm not marking, Ushie Mullen's out and O'Hara's out?
But what's the point then in releasing any team? Like,
you have to do something. Or there'll be no route.
But I think either have a rule where you have to release the team.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the new GAA rules. I'm pretty sure you have to release 26 to Croke Park. So Croke Park has the
26.
Yeah.
Some teams only name 1 to 15 online, and they don't even name 15 to 26.
That's the bigger thing in the GAA for the last 20 years, naming cowboy teams. Like,
I know, I would change it.
Unless they bring in a rule. I mean, that's not...
Yeah.
That's just
well, I went to Tralee this year for the league match, and Dublin named a star-studded team against Kerry. I was like,
lads weren't even
this is going to be a classic. Yeah, it's going to be a classic. Con was pulled forward.
This year?
This is second game in the
I was
league.
looking at Con's Instagram when he's in the States.
He wasn't even there.
Going to be tight getting Tralee now in 4 hours, Con.
And next thing, they were all pulled. James McCarthy was supposed to be back. Con Callahan, these fellas. And next thing, they pulled him. It's like, Kerry probably knew they weren't playing, so the only people they are fucking over is the supporters.
That's okay.
So I would say that's a rule that needs to be changed.
Good question. Joe, any more questions? Last one, very last question, and we're going to have to wrap up here. So
yeah, one last one here. Want to tell us who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, it's Paddy from Longford.
Man, Paddy.
This one's for Tommy and Keith. So I suppose, James, you've had a fantastic career. Won All-Ireland, 2014 Player of the Year. And Paddy, you've 7 All-Ireland titles, but for the two lads, which career would you rather have had?
Right. Tommy's.
Thank you. That's a good question.
Is it?
Do you want to go first?
Go first. No, you can go first on that one.
I feel like I would love to have Paddy Andrews' life post-retirement. I feel like
hang on.
I feel like
what's the question? What's the question again?
Whose career?
Between who? All right.
I feel like you lived like a king for 12 months and 14. After 14.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like
he's lived like a king for about 10 years.
No. That's what I said. Paddy has the legacy forever now. But I would love to have been James for 12 months and 14, 15.
You need to mark me in 2014, so I wouldn't do that. I'd say how many All-Ireland medals? Fucking jingling around the pocket there, like, sure.
Yeah. Even to get 7 team holidays out of it was probably worth it. Like.
Good crack.
We got Miami, South Africa, Thailand. Where'd you go? You went
Miami, South Africa.
It's all the same spots, isn't it?
They were all cycling around.
Circuit,
Dubai, yeah.
But we landed, I think I stole this on the pod, we landed to Thailand, and Tyrone had stayed there, I think the year before.
All right.
And like, they were all coming over going, please, don't trash the place like your friends.
We landed
I think, and Tyrone as well, down in Killarney, are barred from Reedy's, which is like the main bar. The team are barred. So they know how to enjoy themselves, I'll just say that.
You've had it in for Tyrone all year.
So, to answer your question, I'd have taken the number 32 jersey in any county panel in any country, so there you go. Keith, this weekend. Have we been too down on Mayo?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Like I find it very, very difficult now to sit here and try and criticise that team because
agreed.
I'm so close to so many of them. It's been there for so long. You try to be positive. Like when I'm watching the games, I won't lie, I do get frustrated watching it. But at the same time, you have to be positive. You have to hope there's a big kick in them. Like if I was there now and you're after losing to one of your biggest rivals at home, there has to be a kick. Yeah. And they have to be thinking that way for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So you get a chance then to kind of redeem yourself at home. Like I said, they have to be going all out for this game. So, yeah, fingers crossed, you have to be hopeful for it. So, yeah, you are being harsh.
Bit harsh. Okay. Okay. Thanks very much, lads.
That was the closest thing to a Kerry Yera.
Hang on, I was thinking, when you see Mark O'Shea putting Kerry third favourites behind Derry, that's just
Who's that, Mark O'Shea?
Yeah, that's taking the piss.
There's only one power rankings that matters, and that's Owen Sheehan's, and I think he has Kerry #1, so they're the one to keep an eye on.
But Kerry, we're not going to talk about Kerry tonight, but Kerry are primed to be caught, just from the...
That is the feeling we have, and we're going to get into that next week on the Football Pod.
But imagine if Mayo came through Monaghan.
That's what I mean. The season is open, like.
Yeah.
Exactly. Beat Donegal.
Yeah.
And landed at Kerry's door. Like, that is a massive game then.
The
way it's set up this year is...
Were you buzzing in 17 when you had qualifier game after qualifier game and you were motoring along?
Oh, yeah. I think I've said this to Paddy beforehand. It was just because it was week on week, like you weren't being slogged at training. It was literally play the game Saturday. You do a half an hour recovery on the Sunday. You might have a gym session on the Monday, which was literally half an hour, and then it was train Wednesday and game Saturday. It was one session a week, and it was the most enjoyable summer I nearly ever had, because it was just week on week, game on game. Obviously, when you're winning, it helps, but
isn't training just a pain in the hole? It's just shocking, like it is.
Yeah. But yeah, again, momentum's a strange thing. If you can get momentum, it's huge.
Yeah.
But trying to get that, that's what I'm saying. The first 15, 20 minutes would probably be awful cagey on Saturday. Get over that and you start to build the next thing. Yeah. It can take life for someone.
Out of those 2 games this weekend, 2 of those teams are going to come out with momentum. Like Tyrone, car crash stuff here today, but if they go and beat Armagh and the Athletic Grounds, they're in the mix.
Game on.
Mayo, the exact same. Yeah. I think Mayo will win and I think Tyrone will win.
Okay. Listen.
You said Monaghan 5 minutes ago.
Can we... Big round of applause, please, for Keith Higgins, our special guest tonight. A huge thank you to everyone, a huge thank you to the Royal Theatre. It's been a brilliant venue. Huge thanks to our sponsors, AIB, proud sponsor of the Senior Football Championship. Paddy Andrews, can I get a round of applause? A warm Mayo. Thank you, Paddy Andrews. And Mr. James O'Donoghue as well. There we go. And a huge thank you to you all at home. We love doing the Football Pod. We get to talk football every week, and it's all because of the subscribers we have and the people who are listening and sending the questions. So a huge thank you to you all for coming out tonight as well and for supporting us. And I hope Mayo win at the weekend.
Please God.
Hey. Thanks, lads. Cheers, lads. Thank you. Thanks very much.